Tony's Tuna International is based in Port Lincoln, South Australia, which has long been recognised as the home of the Australian southern bluefin tuna industry. Tony's Tuna International is the only company that catches, farms and processes fresh and ultra-low temperature frozen southern bluefin tuna without requiring external contractors or assistance. The fishing grounds are generally south of the Great Australian Bight. Once the tuna are caught by purse seiner method, they are towed back to approved farming sites off Port Lincoln in specially designed towing cages. The tuna are fed every day a diet of various fish species, including mackerel, redbait, sardines and locally caught pilchards. All bait must meet the strict quarantine health and sanitary requirements imposed by our government and our industry. We regularly send bait for independent testing to ensure that it meets these requirements and our own specifications. The locally caught pilchards are caught during the night and transferred to the feeding bins so that they can be fed fresh direct to the tuna the next morning. The freshness and high protein levels of this fish are particularly good for the tuna's growth and condition. A daily monitoring program focusing on the health and condition of the tuna is conducted by our divers and our staff scientists at the farm sites and at the processing factory. We also closely monitor water quality, including any bacterial readings, temperature and dissolved oxygen levels. There is also our own environmental monitoring program of the sea floor under and around the cages. Our industry association and government agencies also have monitoring programs that provide us with additional information. When the tuna are at their peak condition, they are harvested early each morning. A special harvest net is placed inside the holding pen so that the tuna being harvested that day can be separated from the remaining fish to minimize stress to all of the fish. One of our other vessels acts as a carrier vessel so that fish are sent to our processing factory as soon as possible after being harvested. Once a fish has been caught, it is killed instantly using a spike to the brain. Brought on board the harvest vessel and the head and spine cored to stop the nerves causing any damage to the flesh of the fish. It is then spiked to force the blood from the fish and then gilled and gutted. Once this process is completed, the fish are placed into ice slurry bins for the trip back to the processing factory. The waste products from the harvest are also brought ashore and delivered to a processor for the manufacture of fish meal. Once the carrier boat arrives at the wharf, the bins of fish are loaded onto our trucks for the 5-minute drive to Tony's Tuna Processing Factory. It is here that the fish are prepared for transport by air directly to customers or the fresh auction markets in Japan, or processed and frozen in the ultra-low temperature freezer complex. The processing of the fresh fish is completed when the fish arrive at the factory. Once they've been trimmed and cleaned, each fish is graded and inspected before being packed into containers with sealed ice packs to keep them cold. Fresh tuna for the exclusive sashimi markets of Japan must be of the highest quality, so our staff take great care in preparing and packing these fish to ensure they meet the standards required by our customers. The remaining fish are graded and packed for delivery to the auction markets in Japan. Once processing is finished, the cartons are loaded into refrigerated trucks, which then take the product directly to either Adelaide or Melbourne airports, connecting with flights to Japan. The freezing plant operates on environmentally friendly R23 gas, cascading from an ammonia plant which was designed in Australia, utilising equipment from both Japan and Europe. Control of all facets of the plant operation and monitoring of the blast rooms and storage rooms is done from a computer located in the processing factory. We are able to record temperature variances in any area, and an external security company also monitors the system for particular variations. We are notified of any situation that is outside predetermined conditions. The frozen processing is done in our state-of-the-art factory, the first land-based freezing complex in the world able to freeze farm tuna that have been harvested the same day. The tuna are processed and then blast frozen to a temperature of -65°C within 10 to 12 hours. The processing of the tuna to be frozen requires the removal of the fins, tail and gill plates. A rope strop is inserted at the tail end of the fish so that they can be handled once frozen. The removal of the gill plates assists with airflow through the body of the fish during the blast freezing. During these procedures, the fish are trimmed of any parts that are not flesh meat. They are then rinsed and excess water removed using air guns. After a final inspection by our Japanese agents and technicians, the tuna are stacked onto trolleys using a hydraulic table. By using this table, we do not have to lift the tuna and therefore avoid any damage or stress to the flesh of the fish. Once each trolley is filled, it's taken into one of 5 blast rooms. The blast rooms have a total capacity of 30 tons. At the completion of blast freezing and before any trolleys are taken from the blast rooms, fish are taken from the rear, centre and front of each blast room, drilled and a probe inserted to determine and record that the fish have reached the required core frozen temperature of -65°C. Once this has been confirmed, the trolleys are taken from the blast rooms and returned to the main processing area for glazing and packing into storage cages. The fish are reweighed to determine their frozen weight before being glazed. The glazing process is immersing the frozen tuna through a tank of chilled water, resulting in a thin layer of ice forming on the outside of the tuna. This glaze protects the frozen tuna from damage by freezer burn and also protects the skin of the fish from being marked during loading into storage cages and during transit to Japan. Once the fish have been loaded into numbered storage cages, they are transferred to one of 2 100-ton storage rooms. In addition to the temperature of each room being monitored, there are 3 probes spaced in each room that are inserted into fish in cages at that location. The core temperature of these probed fish can then be monitored by the computer. The fish have to be packed into specially designed ultra-low temperature shipping containers that can hold the product temperature at between -60 and -65°C during the voyage to Japan. Great care is taken to ensure that the product temperature does not rise during the packing procedure. The loading area is sealed and temperature controlled to minimize any product temperature variations. The shipping company also inserts probes into fish in the container so that their temperatures can be logged during the voyage. Once packed and sealed, the containers are transported from Port Lincoln by road to Adelaide or Melbourne to meet particular vessels that can accommodate the super freeze containers. The advantage of this whole process is that we are able to supply the Japanese markets with fish that have effectively been processed within a few hours of harvesting. Our Japanese customers have reacted very favourably to the freshness of the product once thawed, and demand for this product has increased greatly. Tony's Tuna International is proud of its ability to provide a totally self-sufficient process that can service its customers' needs and be a major participant in the Australian tuna industry.